this is part 4 of my Stranger Things diorama, and today we're working on accessories, and I'm going to start on the left side of the room. So we're going to focus on filling up all of those shelves and kind of work on the couch area, and then the other half of the room, like the D&D table and the other stuff over there, I'll do that like in a separate video. So we're going to focus on this side, and I'm going to be making a bunch of accessories, but I also purchased a bunch because some of it was just like way too cute to not buy and include, and some of it I just not talented enough to make. So let me show you those items and then we'll get started making the other stuff. So I have these 2 Dungeons and Dragons. I guess they're like play sets or something. I don't know. But definitely wanted to include those somewhere. I just have a bunch of these like mini books just to kind of be like shelf filler, because on the shelves there's like a ton of books. So just bought these, very simple. I have these little soda cans. I wish there was like multiple Coca-Colas instead of just one, but what can you do? Little Rubik's Cube. How adorable is that? So freaking cute. I will be taking it out of the packaging, even though the packaging is cute. But oh my God, obsessed. These little retro Pop-Tarts. I did see like one scene in particular where there was like a box of Pop-Tarts on the coffee table, so really happy to find those. This is a little bottle of vodka, Stoli vodka, of course, to pay homage to Alexi, R.I.P. This one I'm really excited about. This is Ghostbusters cereal, and obviously they dressed up as Ghostbusters in season 2, but then also season 3 when they're at the grocery store looking for like medical supplies. They walk past, or they walk down the cereal aisle, and there's like all of these great 80s cereals, and this is one of them. So again, so happy to find it. So cute. Another cereal box. This one is Cocoa Puffs, and they put like actual, well, not actual cereal, but you know, fake cereal in there, which is really cute. I did see a Cocoa Puffs cereal box in one scene, so stoked to find this one as well. A little plate of waffles, because obviously. This little Simon box. These little dinosaurs, because I noticed some like toy dinosaurs around the TV, so I already have these in my collection, so I'm just gonna throw them in there. A little My Little Pony. How cute. I want to take it out of the box, but the box is also really cute, so I don't know, I might leave her in there. I wanted to get this to pay homage to season 3 when Dustin and Erica are talking about My Little Pony, and I found this when I was looking for something else, so I definitely wanted to include it. She's so cute. Little ice cream scoop for Steve. I got a little dartboard because I think it was maybe in the earlier seasons, the basement, there's a dartboard like behind the TV, so I just snagged this guy. I have these little like 80s magazines. I just thought they would be cute to include in the project. Flashlight, because you really can't go to the upside down with that one, right? Little 3 Musketeers bar for Dart. So cute. A Surfer Boy pizza. This one I actually found this in, I think it's called Mini Brands. For the last like few months, Target has had like a whole aisle dedicated to Stranger Things, which is awesome. And they had all these little boxes of like mini brands, and you don't know what you're gonna get in each box. And I bought a couple of them, and this was in one of them, which was amazing because I was gonna be making this anyway, so now I don't have to. And it has a little pizza, so cute. Also in there was this, which I do really want to include in the project, but it's not to scale like at all. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to stick it in there, but I mean, it's perfect. I have a little light bright, and it does have the light bright inside. I was planning on making this, but I couldn't really figure out how to do it and make it look like super realistic. Obviously this one isn't crazy realistic, but it does look pretty cute, and it comes with a few other little pictures. So yeah, I don't know. I might just throw it in there, and then maybe I'll try to make my own at some point, TBD. Also got an Atari, and this is also something that I planning on making, but I mean, maybe I'll just use this one. I don't know. Pretty cute. It's the little controllers. So yeah. And then this little cigar box, super random. It was just already in my collection, but yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna include it in there, but there's like a bunch of different kind of like boxes and like random stuff on the bookshelves. So maybe I'll just like throw it up there. I don't know. And then last but not least, of course, a little Walkman. How cute. Oh wait, it's that way. Yeah. And then comes with these little cassette tapes. I mean, I had to, of course. So I did purchase other items as well, but I'm going to be using those in the other part of the room. So right now we're going to focus on the couch area. So let's get started making some other accessories for that.
First thing I'm going to start making is Dart from season 2. If you remember, he is the demo dog. Well, he started out as a kind of like cute little creature that turns into a demo dog that Dustin finds at his house. So I'm just crumpling up some foil and just kind of forming it into like a baked potato shape. And then we're going to cover it with some polymer clay. And the foil helps to bulk up your items so that you don't have to use as much clay. And I'm just rolling that out into a thin sheet. And once I get the thickness that I want, I'm just going to wrap it around the foil. And I'm just going to start kind of shaping out his little body. I'm not super amazing at working with polymer clay yet, but I do really enjoy working with it. And it's nice to have the option to kind of make anything that you want. So yeah, we'll see how this turns out. Once I have the body kind of like the shape that I'm looking for, I'm going to start on his little fin. I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but that's what we're going to call it. So I just grabbed a little rope of clay, and I'm just using my tool to start blending that into his body. Then using that same tool, I'm going to start creating his little mouth. Now I'm just rolling out another little snake of clay, and I'm going to start creating his tail. So I'm just trying to figure out how long I want it to be. I'm thinking like a little bit longer than the length of his body. And once I get the size that I want, I'm going to make a little indent to his body, and I'm going to add some liquid polymer clay. This is basically like a clay adhesive that will really make sure the pieces are bonded when it's baking. And I'm going to add in a little piece of a toothpick, and stick the tail to that just to really make sure that it doesn't break off in the oven. And then I'll just blend that into his body. I'm going to start shaping it out, and I do want it to be curled a little, so I'm just kind of adjusting it to the position I want it to be in, and I'm going to add a little bit of clay on either side because I thought it was maybe a little bit too thin, and I was worried about it maybe being a bit fragile after it's baked. So I'm just going to blend those pieces in just to kind of bulk it out a little bit more. Adding another little snake of clay on top of the tail to kind of extend that fin a little bit. So I'm just going to blend that in just like I did with the other fin. Now I'm going to get started on his little feet, and these were by far the most challenging thing for me to make. I'm not really great at making like fingers or toes or anything like that. I think in general, hands and feet are pretty hard. Definitely easier to make like an animal's feet versus a human. But yeah, these gave me some grief, and spoiler alert, they don't exactly turn out how I envisioned, but it's fine. So I kind of started off by making basically a little L shape out of 2 circles of clay, and then I'm going to take my tool and cut little toes. And this part was really hard for me. I ended up having to actually redo his feet a few times because they were just not turning out good at all. And like I said, I'm still not great at working with polymer clay. Once I get them looking semi-decent, basically as good as they're going to get, I took a tiny piece of toothpick and stuck it in the top of each foot and stuck them in the body. And once I put them in, I noticed they look absolutely crazy. So I had to take them out and start over. So here is take 3. We are starting over yet again, and I made the feet a little bit smaller, and already I think they look much better. And I decided to put the toothpicks in before I cut the little toes just to make it easier. And just holding them up against the body, they will definitely work. So I blended the feet into the body once I cut the toes, and that's the best we're going to do. So now let's bake him. So this is what he looks like once he's baked, and now that he is cooled down, we can start painting. His belly appears to be like a pink color, so I mixed together this kind of salmon color, and I'm going to go in with this one first. Now I'm going to go in with some yellow, starting with his fin. He's kind of a blend of a few different colors, so I think I'll probably be going back and forth with all of them until I get the desired look that I want. Now I'm going to go in with the dark green, starting with his little feet, and I decided to switch to a sponge and sponge the green on his body, so that way we can still see some of the yellow underneath. And I'm going to be going back and forth between the green and the yellow and the sponge and my paintbrush, just so I can really get the look I'm envisioning. And here is what he looks like when he's done. Once I finished painting, I coated him with a layer of gloss, and ultimately I think he turned out pretty cute. I'm still not happy with the feet, and don't look at the bottom. That doesn't look great, but it is what it is, and I do think he will make a really cute addition to the project. Next, I'm going to make an Atari, so I'm just grabbing some black polymer clay and kneading that together, and then I'm going to cut out a rectangular shape. And on an Atari, the sides are slanted, so I'm just trying to make sure that both sides are even. And once I get it looking how I want it, I'm going to move on to the little top part. I cut another rectangle about the same thickness as the main Atari part, and I'm just again angling the edges, trying to make sure that they are even. And then using the end of my clay tool, I'm just going to make some little indentations. And this is where the knobs are going to go. And then I'm just going to cut out a little outline of where you would put in the game. And once I finish up with that, I can go ahead and adhere it to the bottom part with some liquid polymer clay. Before I do that though, I also wanted to make 2 small indentations on the back of the top piece. This is where the cords of the controllers will be coming out of. And to make the controllers, I just cut out 2 little squares and just using my clay tool to make an indentation in the center of both of them for the little joystick. I think that's what it's called. And then making a tiny indentation on each side. This is where the cord will be attached to. And now they're ready to be baked. This is what they look like once they've been baked, and now I can start putting it all together. So I painted a skewer black and cut off small little pieces for the joysticks and the little knobs. So using a ruler, I drew on some lines with a pencil just on top of the Atari. And now I'm going to attach the knobs, and I'm also going to glue the joysticks onto the controllers. I found some thin black elastic cord in my collection, so I'm just gluing that to the back of the Atari. I just filled the holes with a bunch of glue and stuck those in there, and I'm going to let that dry. I dipped a toothpick in some orange paint, and I'm just making little dots around the joysticks. And then using the end of my paintbrush, I'm creating one larger orange dot on both of the controllers. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the knobs on the Atari silver just to really make them pop and look a bit more realistic. And I'm also going to add the cords to the backs of the controllers, just putting some glue in the hole that we created earlier and sticking those in. And now I'm just taking a little bit of wood contact paper and I cut out a little piece and I'm just going to glue that to the front of the Atari. Even though it does have a sticky back, I want this to have a stronger hold. So I'm just using some tacky glue and gluing that on the front. And that really completes our Atari. I think it turned out really cute and I can't wait to add it to the project. The next item that I want to include is the little whiteboard from Scoops Ahoy that Steve and Robin used to keep score. I just thought that would be really fun to add to the project. So I'm just cutting out a little rectangle from a piece of mat board. This is going to be the backing for the actual whiteboard. And for the whiteboard part, I'm just using some white laminate paper. So I'm just cutting out that in the same size as I cut out the mat board. And then I'm just going to glue that to the mat board. To create a little frame around the whiteboard, I'm just cutting some coffee stirrers with my easy cutter and just basically making a frame shape that will be glued on the front. So just like how you would create a frame, I'm cutting the ends of each piece on an angle so that they will fit together nicely. And once I get them all cut out, I'm going to paint them silver before I glue them on and let those dry. And I'm also going to paint the edges of the whiteboard so everything blends in together nicely once I glue everything on. And once those are dry, I glue them to the front. Once everything dried, I used a Sharpie to write on "You rule and you suck" and the little tally marks, and then our little whiteboard is complete. And I think it turned out really cute, such a fun homage to Scoops Ahoy, and I can't wait to put it into the project. The next thing I wanted to make was the Castle Buyer sign. This was super easy. I forgot to film the first bit, but all I did was cut out a thin piece of basswood and stain it brown, and I just made the edges a little bit jagged. And I'm going to go in with a yellow paint pen to write the text, and I'm just trying to match it as close as possible to the reference pic. I used a thin Sharpie to outline it, and then we're done. So super easy to make, and just wanted to add this to pay homage to season 1. I think it will look pretty cute in the basement. This next one I'm really excited about. I'm going to make Steve's bat. This is, of course, his baseball bat with all of the nails in it from season 2. So I'm just using some brown polymer clay and trying to make it look like a baseball bat as best I can. Yes, I know what it looks like right now. Don't worry, it will look better, I promise. Once I get a shape that I'm happy with, I'm going to go ahead and use these tiny nails to make imprints in the clay before I bake it. That way, once this is baked, I can just glue the nails in really easily. Once it's baked and cooled, I just want to give it a little more dimension and make it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to paint it with a few different shades of brown, and I'm just kind of dry brushing that on, going back and forth with a few different colors until I get the look that I want. Once the paint is dry, I can go ahead and glue in my nails. So just using a little bit of tacky glue, dipping each nail in and sticking it in the holes that we created earlier. So super easy. And this is the finished product. I'm actually really stoked with how it turned out. Steve is one of my favorite characters, so I can't wait to add this to the room. Now we're going to work on the TV. So I purchased this on Etsy, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a makeover just to fit the vibe a little bit more. So I want to start by painting it gray, and I'm just going to use some painter's tape and tape off the parts that I won't be painting. And once everything is taped off, I can go in with my gray paint, and I think I ended up using about 3 coats in total. I let it dry, and that's what it looks like so far. And based on my reference photos, the TV in the basement has some like wood paneling on the sides. So I'm going to grab some more of that wood contact paper that we used for the Atari, and I'm going to use that to cover up the sides. So just measuring it out, and then I'm just going to use some tacky glue and glue it on. And I'll just repeat the process on the other side as well. And that's what it looks like when it's done. I think it looks really cute and retro, so I love it so far. And now I'm going to focus on the actual TV screen. I couldn't decide what image to put on the screen, so I ended up just painting it gray and coating it with gloss Mod Podge just to make it look like the TV is off. And that's how it turned out. Now we're going to make Max's skateboard. She's another one of my favorite characters, so I definitely wanted to include this in the project. So I bought the skateboard on Etsy and printed out this reference image of the bottom of her skateboard and printed it out in the correct scale. And basically, I'm going to be cutting out bits from that and gluing it on the skateboard, but first we have to paint it. So I'm mixing together an orangey red, and I'm also going to mix together a yellow kind of orange color. And I'm going to start by painting the wheels. And this skateboard is a slightly different style than hers. The wheels on this one are a bit lower than the wheels on her skateboard, but we're going to make it work. So once I get the wheels painted, I'm going to go in with the orange-red color and paint the whole bottom. I let that dry and I coated it with some matte Mod Podge, and before I add on all of the little stickers and the Madrid logo, I need to add the white and pink paint, as you can see on the little reference photo. So I'm going to grab a little piece of sponge and start sponging on the white first. Once I'm happy with how that looks, I let it dry, and then I'm going to add in the pink, again just using this little detail sponge and trying to make it match the reference photo as closely as possible. Once that was dry, I cut out the Madrid logo and I just glued that on the bottom, and I already feel like it's coming together, so cute. And then I cut out the other little stickers and just placed those on as well. I wish they were a little bit more clear, but this is really the best that I could do, so it is what it is. Once I glued those on, I let them dry, coated it with another layer of Mod Podge, and that's how it's looking so far. Now I'm going to move on to the top. I really want to make it look like grip tape, so I'm mixing together some matte black paint and a little bit of baking soda to give it that sandpaper texture. This is also a great way to make like textured stone walls, but in that case I use a lot more baking soda. I ended up adding a little bit of white because it was looking a bit too dark, and once I got the color that I wanted, I started painting the top of the skateboard, and once it dried, that's what it looks like. I'm actually really excited about how it looks. I really like that I got that grip tape texture, so very excited about that. Okay, let's move on. The next item I'm going to make is a Simon. I do see this in a few scenes from the show, so I definitely wanted to include it. So I'm just starting by rolling out some black polymer clay, and then I'm going to use my circle template because I don't have a cutter in the size that I need. And I'm just going to use that to create the little disc shape for the Simon. While that is baking, I'm going to go ahead and use the scrap of paper to make the little buttons on top of the Simon. So just using that same circle template, I'm cutting out circles in each of the colors, and then I'm going to fold them in half both ways so I get a cross shape in the middle of each circle. And then I will have a middle point that I can use for reference. Because I'm going to be drawing a smaller circle in the middle of each one to get the exact shape of the buttons that I need. And I'm only going to be using 1/4 of the circle because each button is a different color. So I'm just going to cut out one little section. And once I cut it out, this is what it should look like. So I'm just going to repeat the process for each of the colors. And once my little black disc has cooled down, I can start gluing them on top. I also cut out the little Simon logo and glued that in the middle. And once it's all dry, I'm going to coat it with some Mod Podge to make it look more like a toy and not like paper. And here is the finished product. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm excited to have another iconic 80s toy in the project. The next item I want to include is the Farrah Fawcett hairspray, Steve's hairspray of choice. So I bought this little Aquanet, which is so freaking cute, and I almost feel bad like having to cover it up because look how adorable it is, and the little cap is removable. Like, I'm obsessed. But anyways, I found an image of the Farrah Fawcett hairspray online, printed it out in the correct size, and all I did was glue it on the little bottle. And that's what it looks like. I did end up painting the lid brown to match my reference photo, and of course I coated it all in some Mod Podge just to make it look a little bit more realistic, and that's how it turned out. I think it looks so cute and such a fun little Easter egg to include in the project. The last thing I want to make today are some videotapes from Family Video, of course from Steve and Robin Work, and I printed out these little video sleeves, but I need to make the VHS tapes to go inside them. So I'm going to use this piece of basswood. It's the correct thickness that I need. And I'm going to use the little videotape covers as templates, so I make sure I make the right size videotapes. This is what they look like once they're cut out, and I'm just going to wrap the sleeve around, as you can see, and it does not fully cover the bottom, but that's totally fine because these are going to be stacked on top of each other. But before I glue the little sleeves on, I want to go ahead and paint these black because obviously a lot of this will be exposed. Once the paint is dry, I can go ahead and glue these sleeves on with a little bit of tacky glue. And then of course I will coat everything in Mod Podge. And they end up looking pretty cute. And now that we have most of our accessories done, we can finally start filling up the room. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of miniature making because this is really when a project starts to come together and starts to look realistic, because so far it's just kind of been a nondescript basement. So I'm just kind of starting by arranging items on the shelves, and I'm not going to glue anything down yet because I want to make sure things are exactly where I want them before I glue them down permanently. So I'm basically just taking a bunch of the items randomly and arranging them on the shelf where I think they might look good. Also kind of referring to some of the reference photos of the basement. And I'm basically just going to keep adding items, kind of moving things around and fidgeting with them until I'm happy with where they're at. Once I'm happy with where all the items are on the shelf, I'm going to go ahead and glue them down using some tacky glue. This is the room so far. I'm pretty happy with how it's starting to look. Obviously, there's still a lot to do, but it's definitely coming together. The only items that I've actually glued down are the items on the shelves. I kind of want to play around with some of the other items, so I may move them once I start working on the other side of the room. But yeah, stay tuned for part 5.